Carson, except you can't really see the title there. Here we go. Who was Rachel Carson? This month of December, I'm doing viewer requested topics, and someone requested biographies about environmentalism. It was really detailed, but I immediately thought of Rachel Carson, especially since I think it was in my very first ever trivia live stream that one of the answers was Rachel Carson, and nobody in my chat knew who she was, so I was like, oh man, I gotta do a video about Rachel Carson at some point, so here we are. Also, the upstairs neighbors are having their fight club or whatever it is they're doing, so you might hear some distant thumps in the background. But anyway, let's just dive right in. Who was Rachel Carson? As a little girl, Rachel Carson liked to sit on the porch of her family's farmhouse and hold her mother's conch shell to her ear. As she pressed the seashell to her ear, Rachel looked out at the fields and woods that surrounded her home. Rachel loved the plants, the animals, and even the insects that lived in the fields and woods. But the magical sounds that seemed to come from deep inside the shell made her dream of the sea. More than anything, Rachel wanted to stand on the shore of the ocean. She wanted to feel the waves wash over her feet. Rachel was a shy girl, but she was also determined. Not only did she dream of the sea, she also dreamed of being a writer. Rachel knew that if she worked hard and held on to her dreams, that maybe someday they might come true. And that's exactly what happened. Even though Rachel faced many challenges in her life, through hard work and determination, she became a writer who knew all about the sea, the shore, and all the creatures that made their homes there. In her books, Rachel explained scientific ideas about nature in a way that ordinary people could understand. She also showed how all living things are connected. Rachel wanted people to understand how important it is to look after the planet we share with every plant, insect, and animal. When she sat on her family's porch holding the shell to her ear, little did Rachel know that her dream would one day help shape the world we all live in. Chapter 1: Creatures Great and Small. Rachel Carson was born in Springdale, Pennsylvania on May 27, 1907. Her mother, Maria McLean, was the daughter of a Presbyterian minister. She had been a schoolteacher who also gave private piano lessons. Maria was forced to give up her job when she married Robert Carson, since married women were not allowed to teach in Pennsylvania at the time. Rachel's father, Robert, owned 65 acres of farmland and woods in Springdale, a town about 15 miles north of Pittsburgh, near the Allegheny River. The property included a small 2-story house, a barn, outhouses, a chicken coop, and a spring house. The Carsons kept a few pigs, horses, cows, and chickens. By the time Rachel was born, she already had 2 older siblings, a sister, Marion, and a brother, Robert Jr. Rachel and her dog, Candy, spent a lot of time exploring the land that surrounded their home. The woods and fields were full of all kinds of plants, animals, and insects, and Rachel was fascinated by all of them. Rachel's brother and sister were much older, so Rachel spent a lot of time alone. But she didn't mind, as she considered all the creatures her friends. She watched birds making their nests, butterflies flitting through the grass, and fish swimming in the streams. Although the rushing water of the streams made Rachel happy, her biggest dream was to see the ocean. Rachel's mother had a conch shell, and Rachel loved holding it to her ear. She would pretend she could hear the ocean's waves rushing up and down the beach. Rachel's mother was an avid bird watcher. She also believed it was important for young people to study nature. Mrs. Carson taught Rachel that people must share the world with other creatures and be respectful of them. She would watch as her mother carried insects out of the house. Rachel's mother didn't even own a fly swatter. Rachel and her mother would take long walks in the fields and woods. stories and poems from writers such as Mark Twain and Louisa May Alcott, and illustrations by artists such as Norman Rockwell. Rachel's favorite section of the magazine was called the St. Nicholas League. It sponsored contests and printed articles, stories, and drawings that had been submitted by children. Winners were awarded gold badges, and silver badges were given to runners-up. Children who had won silver and gold badges became honor members. They received cash prizes. When Rachel was 10, she decided it was time to send one of her stories to St. Nicholas magazine. She thought that maybe her work was good enough to win a prize. Rachel wasn't sure what she wanted to write about, but she got an idea from her brother Robert. At the time, Robert was a soldier in the U.S. Army fighting in World War I. In one of his letters home, he told the family about a Canadian pilot. The pilot had kept his plane flying even after one of the wings had been shot off. Rachel worked very hard on her story and finally sent it off to the magazine. Then she waited to hear back from them. On a September morning in 1918, Rachel received the latest issue of the magazine. There, in the St. Nicholas League section, was her story, A Battle in the Clouds. Underneath the title was her name, and under that were the words Silver Badge. Winning the Silver Badge prize was exciting for Rachel. It inspired her to write more stories. Most of them were about World War I. In February 1919, Rachel received a gold badge from the magazine for one of her stories. Because Rachel had won a silver and a gold badge, she also got a cash prize. The prize was $10, which was a lot of money at the time. Rachel began to think that maybe she could be a real writer someday. And that day would come much sooner than Rachel had ever imagined. She had written an essay about why she liked St. Nicholas magazine for her 8th grade English class, and the magazine bought her essay to use in its advertising. They paid Rachel a penny a word, which came to a little over $3. This money was a payment and not a prize. Later, Rachel would say that she became a professional writer at the age of 11. She even wrote first payment on the envelope that the check came in and never threw it out. Rachel continued to write stories when she entered high school. She also worked hard to get good grades so that she would be able to attend college, and Rachel was determined to go to college. Rachel liked spending time on her own and writing with no one else around. Because she was a serious student, Minnesota with them. She had even borrowed a Model T Ford to make the trip from Springdale. It must have been hard for Rachel not to be able to join her classmates when they went out, but she always reminded herself that she was at college to learn and not to play. Because she wanted to be a writer, Rachel decided to study English literature and composition at college. Rachel's English teacher was Miss Grace Groff. She quickly became Rachel's favorite teacher, and Rachel soon became one of Miss Groff's favorite students. She admired Rachel's determination and saw that Rachel had real talent. But English literature and composition classes weren't the only ones that Rachel had to take at college. For her music requirement, Rachel decided to play the violin. And in her second year at Pennsylvania College for Women, Rachel had to take a science course. She chose biology, which is the study of plant and animal life. Although she loved nature, Rachel didn't exactly want to take a science course because her science classes at high school had been dull and boring. However, Miss Mary Skinger's biology class changed Rachel's mind about studying science. Miss Skinger had the same passion for the natural world as Rachel did, and Rachel was thrilled when the biology classes included field trips to nearby state parks. On one trip, Miss Skinger had all the students split apart layers of rock with hammers and chisels. Rachel hit a piece of dull gray rock. When the piece broke open, what a surprise she found. Inside the rock was a fossil of a fish that had swum in an ancient ocean. Miss Skinger explained that this dry, rocky area near the college had been at the bottom of an ocean a very long time ago. Rachel also loved finding out about how living things moved and breathed and ate. As part of her class, she had to dissect animals. The class cut open and looked at grasshoppers, frogs, and starfish. While some of the students thought it was a messy job, it fascinated Rachel. She was learning how the wildlife she loved lived and grew. Miss Skinger's biology class excited Rachel so much that she decided to take more science classes. Her main interest was zoology, which is the study of animal life, and it was the animals that lived in the sea that fascinated Rachel the most. Rachel's grades in English classes were excellent, and she loved learning from Miss Groff. But Rachel also loved science classes. She had to make a decision and choose between studying English or science. Rachel worried that if she switched to studying science, she would miss English classes and writing. And if she focused on English, Rachel would no longer have Miss Skinger teaching her about the beauty of the natural world. One night, while she was sitting in her dorm rooms, Rachel took a book of poetry off her shelf. As a storm blew outside, she opened the book to a poem called Locksley Hall. The main character in the poem had to make a hard decision, just like Rachel. One line in the poem jumped out at Rachel as she sat on her bed, listened to the storm, and tried to decide what to do. The line was, "For the mighty wind arises, roaring seaward, and I go." The words stuck in Rachel's head. She read them over and over again. At that point, Rachel was convinced that somehow her life would be connected to the sea as well. She decided that she would choose a life as a scientist rather than a life as a writer. Chapter 4, Dreaming Big. Rachel's classmates thought she was making a big mistake. As a young woman in the 1920s, it would be much easier to find a job as a writer than as a scientist. But once Rachel made up her mind about something, she was determined to make it happen. Rachel studied art in school for the next 2 years. She also worked on the school paper and played on the hockey team. In the spring of her last year at Pennsylvania College for Women, Rachel applied to Johns Hopkins University as a graduate student. She wanted to continue her studies in science. Johns Hopkins University was a very famous school. Not only did Johns Hopkins accept Rachel because of her excellent grades, they also awarded her a scholarship. Rachel was excited and relieved. Getting the scholarship meant that her family wouldn't famous research laboratory. Rachel would get to work with well-known scientists and explore sea life. It was everything she had been dreaming of. The summer at Woods Hole was more than Rachel had hoped for. For the first time, she got to experience the power and beauty of the ocean that she had only ever read about. During the 6 weeks at Woods Hole, Rachel worked in the lab, walked along the seashore, and made friends. She knew that this was the life that she wanted. That fall, on her way to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, Rachel stopped at the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries in Washington, D.C. She wanted to find out what she should study to get a job as a biologist. Rachel spoke with Mr. Elmer Higgins, the acting director. He explained the types of jobs that were available at the Bureau of Fisheries. He also told her that they had never hired a woman scientist. This made Rachel more determined than ever to find a job working as a scientist. There were very few women in Rachel's graduate program at Johns Hopkins University, and it wasn't always easy to keep up with her work. Classes started right after breakfast and went on until after dinner, so there wasn't a lot of free time to study. After 3 tough years, Rachel received her master's degree on June 14th, 1932. Unfortunately, the country was in the middle of the Great Depression, so many people were out of a job. At that time, it was difficult for scientists to find work, but being a woman scientist made it even harder. No one wanted to hire a woman biologist. After a lot of looking, Rachel finally got a job as a teacher at the University of Maryland. It wasn't exactly what she wanted to do, but she was lucky to have a job during such a difficult time. With the money she made, she was able to help out the members of her family who were struggling because of the Depression. In 1935, Rachel's father died. It was a sad time for the Carson family, and it also made life difficult for Rachel's mother. Rachel decided she needed to find a better job to help her family. So Rachel went to talk to Elmer Higgins again. Mr. Higgins told her there were no jobs available for biologists at the Bureau of Fisheries, but Mr. Higgins did need someone to help rewrite scripts for an educational radio program. The program was called Romance Under the Waters. The scripts were filled with long, fancy scientific words that didn't always make sense to the audience. Mr. Higgins wanted the listeners to enjoy the radio program and to learn from it, so he asked Rachel to make the stories easier to understand. Rachel had never written a script before. She was nervous about taking the job, but she knew that her talent as a writer and her knowledge of the underwater world were just what was needed. Chapter 5. Never Give Up. It was the perfect job for Rachel, Brewster Publishing Company, and Willem van Loon, a famous naturalist, both wrote to Rachel. They persuaded Rachel to turn her article into a book. Because Rachel was a perfectionist and because she was also working full-time, it took her 3 years to finish her first book. But in 1941, Under the Sea Wind was published. Her book was filled with stories and interesting facts about the creatures that lived in the sea. It also showed how their lives were all connected. Rachel used words that someone who wasn't a scientist could easily understand and enjoy. Rachel's book received excellent reviews, but it didn't sell well. 1 month after Under the Sea Wind was published, the United States entered World War II. Suddenly the country was at war, and people were worried about how their lives would change. No one was interested in reading a book about sea life and the ocean. Rachel was upset that even though the book got good reviews, very few people bought and read it. She even told a friend, "Don't ever write a book." Because she was so discouraged by the lack of sales for Under the Sea Wind. The Fish and Wildlife Service, which was the new name for the Bureau of Fisheries, was very busy during the war. They moved their offices from Washington, D.C. to Chicago in the spring of 1942 and hired Rachel to work on the Food from the Sea series. War rationing meant that people were eating more fish and less meat. The Food from the Sea bulletins were a way to teach people about different kinds of fish. In the spring of 1943, the Fish and Wildlife Service moved back to Washington, D.C., and Rachel moved to a house in Silver Spring, Maryland. Rachel's mother, brother, sister, and nieces all depended on her and lived with her at various times throughout her life. So although she had just been promoted, it was difficult for Rachel to support herself and all the members of her family. She continued to write magazine articles in addition to her job at the Fish and Wildlife Service. The events of World War II gave Rachel plenty of ideas. There was much research done about radar during the war. It inspired Rachel to write an article about bats and how their sonar skills are like radar. The article was called "The Bat Knew It First." The U.S. Navy recruiting office called it one of the clearest expositions of radar yet made available for public consumption. As always, Rachel wanted the science of the natural world to make sense to everyone. The atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan in August 1945 ended World War II. It was a relief that the war was over. Maybe life could go back to normal. But those powerful bombs made a lot of people, including Rachel, realize that the destruction could have a very bad impact on the entire planet. Rachel wanted everyone to understand that people and the decisions they made had a big effect on the environment and every other living thing. The earth had to be protected. Chapter 6, Success at Last. Rachel spent a lot of time with the people she worked with at the Fish and Wildlife Service, including her good friend and co-worker Shirley Briggs. They went hiking and bird watching together. They went to parties and enjoyed their free time. But Rachel still worked as hard as ever. And over the next few years, she had some amazing experiences. She went deep-sea diving. Seeing sharks, octopuses, and other sea creatures up close was one of the greatest moments of her life. Carson. She found it very difficult to live with the fame that her incredible book had brought. With the huge success of The Sea Around Us, Rachel decided to get her first book, Under the Sea Wind, printed again. This time the book became a top seller. People were interested in what Rachel had to say. Now she had 2 books on the bestseller list. Her money worries were finally over. In 1952, Rachel quit her job and devoted her time to writing, and what she wanted to write about was the natural world that she loved so much. Rachel decided to research new ideas for her next book. She and her mother drove up and down the east coast of the United States, studying the coastal shores and taking notes. Rachel bragged that she and her mother drove over 2,000 miles in just a few months. They visited coral beaches in Florida, sandy beaches in North Carolina, and rocky beaches in Maine. Rachel wanted to observe the plants and sea life in those very different kinds of places. Now that she was writing full-time, Rachel was able to finish her next book much more quickly. In October 1955, The Edge of the Sea was published. Readers were excited to read Rachel's new book. It became an instant bestseller. Like her other books, she used poetic words to describe the animals she had seen on the beaches. She explained how all the animals in these places had adapted to the places they lived. Whether they lived on gentle coral beaches, warm sandy beaches, or rough rocky beaches, animals and plants became what they were because of their environment. Rachel also helped readers understand how they fit into those environments too. With the success of her third book, Rachel became even more famous. Her fans wanted to meet her. They tracked her down when she was getting her hair done in a beauty parlor. They came up to her when she was trying to have a quiet meal in a restaurant. They even knocked on her hotel room door early in the morning. Rachel was happy that so many people read and liked her books, but it was sometimes difficult for her to handle all the attention. She was still the same shy girl from Springdale, Pennsylvania, who liked exploring the woods on her own. Chapter 7, Battling On. While doing her research for The Edge of the Sea, Rachel had read lots of articles and books. Much of what she read had to do with the effect of pollution on our world. Rachel became concerned about how cities and factories across the country were dumping garbage and industrial waste into rivers and oceans. Rachel was sad about how the ocean she loved so much was being used as a giant trash can. She also read about strong chemicals called pesticides that were being sprayed on crops. Farmers and big corporations claimed they needed the pesticides to kill insects and animals that damaged plants and crops. Even the U.S. government made announcements that they had to wage war on the pests that were a threat to food crops. But Rachel knew that this would be terrible for plants and animals, and humans who ate them. In 1957, Rachel's niece, Marjorie, the daughter of her sister Marion, had died from pneumonia, and Rachel was now looking after her niece's young son, Roger, in addition to her own 89-year-old mother. Rachel loved her family, but taking care of them took a lot of energy. And Rachel herself was not always in good health. She was often tired and weak from surgery she had had many years earlier, but none of that stopped her from reading and writing and researching. More than anything, she wanted the world to hear about the things she discovered. Despite all the demands on her time, Rachel was looking for a new project. She was thinking about how she could tell the world all the things she was learning about pollution and pesticides. And then she received a letter from a friend, Olga Owens-Hawkins. The letter described how Olga had found numerous dead robins in her yard. She said that the birds had died because of pesticide spraying that had been done to control mosquitoes, and yet there were still more mosquitoes than ever. The pesticide that had been sprayed Christmas, and Rachel longed for a place to escape to. Rachel brought Roger to live there with her and her mother. Just during the day, Rachel and Roger wandered along the seashore and explored nature. They studied moss and ferns. And at night, they took a flashlight and watched the sea life in the rock pools, small crabs, starfish, and anemones. It was just the kind of peace and quiet Rachel needed. It reminded her of her childhood and exploring her family's farm in Pennsylvania. Rachel wanted to teach Roger about the wonders and beauty of nature, just like her mother had taught her. Rachel decided to spend more time learning about pesticides and their effect on nature. She knew that it was not going to be an easy research project. A lot of people told her it was a bad idea, but Rachel knew someone had to speak up. The more research Rachel did, the more upset she became. She was discovering how pollution and pesticides threatened birds, insects, fish, and other animals. And what about human beings? If pollution and pesticides made animals sick, surely they would make people sick as well. Rachel spoke to lots of people, experts on insects and animals, friends she used to work with in the government, doctors who treated people with diseases, and even hunting and fishing groups. It was dangerous work, and some of Rachel's friends worried about her. They thought that if Rachel criticized big business, government agencies, and farmers that used pesticides, these groups might try to ruin her reputation. But Rachel didn't have any connection to business, and she no longer worked for the government. She hoped that this would allow her to do her research more freely. She wanted to show people that keeping the air and water clean was important, even necessary. Rachel kept this new work a secret. She wanted to make sure that no one would try to stop her. As always, because Rachel wanted to make sure her research was absolutely perfect, she checked and double-checked facts. She asked scientists to read her work to be absolutely certain that it was accurate. She also asked everyone to help her keep her project a secret. The problem with pesticides and pollution was worse than Rachel had thought. Most people thought the government would protect them from dangers and wouldn't do anything to make them sick, but Rachel's research showed that this wasn't true. Chapter 8: Silent Spring, Noisy Spring. In November 1958, right in the middle of Rachel's research into DDT and other pesticides, her mother had a stroke. Within a few days, Carson died. Rachel was so sad that she stopped working. Her world wasn't the same without her mother. On top of that, Rachel seemed to have one illness after another. First, she got the flu, then a bad stomach ulcer, and then arthritis. Rachel also suffered infections in her knees, which meant that she wasn't able to go for walks along the seashore for months. In 1960, Rachel received even worse medical news. She was diagnosed with cancer. She was very sick. Would she ever be able to finish work on her project? But Rachel knew that her work was important. The world needed to know about it, so she kept writing. She was often in pain, and she was in and out of the hospital a lot. Early in 1962, Rachel's latest book was ready. Rachel and her agent, Marie Rudell, discussed titles like The War Against Nature and At War with Nature. Although the subject of the book was serious, those titles sounded too harsh for Rachel's poetic writing. Marie suggested Silent Spring as a title. Rachel had included a chapter in her book about how pollution and chemicals had an effect on birds, everything from sparrows to bald eagles. She had thought about using silent listen and want to help change things. Marie Rodell sent Silent Spring to Rachel's publisher. She also sent it to the New Yorker magazine. A few days later, Rachel's phone rang late at night. The editor of the New Yorker, William Shawn, had just finished reading the book. He called Rachel as soon as he finished it. He was shocked by the things Rachel had written about. How could the government allow big chemical companies to harm plants, animals, and humans? Was it too late to stop the damage? Those words were music to Rachel's ears. It was exactly the kind of reaction she wanted, and she hoped that everyone who read the book would have the same reaction. Mr. Shawn asked if he could run parts of Rachel's book in his magazine before the book was published. Rachel said yes. Although Rachel had received fan mail in the past, it was nothing like the amount she was receiving now. As soon as chapters of Silent Spring appeared in the New Yorker, letters started pouring in. People were shocked by what Rachel had to say. A few of the letters said that Rachel didn't know what she was talking about, but most of the letters were very supportive. An article in the New York Times newspaper said that Rachel had written a story few will read without a chill, no matter how hot the weather. But Rachel and the New Yorker weren't the only ones to get letters. Concerned and outraged readers also sent letters to newspapers, chemical companies, and the government. Representatives from the chemical companies and the Department of Agriculture weren't happy with what Rachel had said in her book. They decided to fight back. They wrote newspaper and magazine articles and went on TV and the radio saying that Rachel had gotten her facts wrong. But Rachel was sure that her research would stand up. She had always worked hard to make sure that whatever she wrote was true, and Rachel didn't want to completely ban the use of pesticides. She just wanted people to learn more about them and to understand that they had an effect on the total environment. Everything found in nature could be harmed by pesticides. Rachel wanted the government and the chemical companies to make sure they tested the chemicals before they used and sold them. Chapter 9, Peace and Quiet. Awards and invitations to speak flooded in. Although Rachel was still shy about speaking in public, she wanted to reach as many people as possible. She agreed to be on TV since millions of people would get to hear her and listen to what she had to say. On April 3rd, 1963, CBS Reports broadcast a one-hour TV program called The Silent Spring of Rachel Carson. CBS wanted people to hear Rachel's message, even though chemical companies urged CBS not to broadcast the program and had even threatened to cancel their advertising. The show was seen by over 10 million people. It reached many who hadn't read Rachel's book and weren't aware of the pollution and pesticide issues. Even the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, had read Rachel's work. He also heard about the people who disagreed with her. President Kennedy asked some scientists to do a special report that would help them decide who was right. On May 15th, 1963, the President's Special Committee report was released. The report said that Rachel's facts were correct. Because of that report, new laws were passed that limited chemical pollution and the use of pesticides. The government also followed Rachel's suggestions about how to find other ways to control insects that damaged crops. Rachel was becoming more and more famous, but she was also getting weaker because of her cancer. In the summer of 1963, Rachel decided she needed a break from all the attention. She went to her house in Maine to spend time with her friends. She wanted to listen to the sound of the sea and watch the creatures along the shore. Being close to the ocean reminded her of exactly why she had dedicated her life to looking after nature. Even though Rachel had escaped to Maine, she did her best to speak to as many people as she could.